The wind howled like a living thing across the barren ice fields of Calvesa 9. Lucas Hale could barely see 3 meters ahead. The visor of his helmet was rimed with frost, the emergency heating pack on his back was nearly dead, and every step sent spikes of pain into his calves. The drop pod had been blown off course when the shuttle's main engine failed. Instead of landing near the forward science outpost, Lucas had slammed down on the far side of the moon's frozen equator. Now, with his beacon broadcasting weakly, he was trudging through one of the deadliest places in the sector. The temperature outside was -74 Celsius. Inside his suit, it felt like knives pressed against his skin. His survival training had drilled one rule into him: conserve power until rescue. But his heating unit's battery would last only another 6 hours. The storm would last longer. He had company, but not the kind he'd expected. When the pod hatch had blown open after impact, something had fallen inside with him, a figure shivering in a ragged thermal cloak. She wasn't human. She was taller than him, with deep sapphire skin mottled with lighter streaks, like frost veins. 2 curling horns jutted back from her skull, tipped in silver. Her eyes, enormous and luminous, had a faint glow that flickered in the dark. Lucas had seen her kind before, Taviri, on the rim colonies, mostly traders or explorers. But here, in the middle of an ice desert, she'd introduced herself simply. Saren. They'd trudged together for hours, neither speaking much. He didn't ask why she was here. She didn't ask why he hadn't activated his full emergency heater. He didn't explain that power cells were scarce, and survival was a matter of choosing when to suffer. Lucas had always been the type to keep his burdens to himself. In the service, they called him Iron Silence. No one had ever seen him ask for help, no matter the odds. And right now, even as his teeth chattered and his lips were numb, he refused to admit just how bad it had gotten. The breaking point. By the 4th hour of the storm, his vision blurred. The snow underfoot seemed to ripple like water. The ground pitched and he stumbled, catching himself on a jagged ice ridge. "You're slowing," Saren's voice came through the comm, accented and low. "I'm fine," he said automatically. She studied him. Even through her frost-crusted hood, her gaze felt sharp. "You're not fine. Your gait is off. You're conserving heat instead of using it." Lucas gritted his teeth and pressed on. "I'll make it." She let the silence stretch. Then, in a tone halfway between concern and command, she said, "Humans are proud creatures. But pride will freeze you faster than the cold." He didn't answer. Pride wasn't the right word. It was habit. Years of being told to endure, to hold steady, to never be the weak link. Even now, some part of him feared that showing weakness would mean he didn't belong in the mission. Another kilometer passed. His knees buckled once. Then again. Finally, when he collapsed to one knee and couldn't force himself up, Saren moved. In one fluid motion, she knelt before him, her long hands gripping his shoulders. "Enough." Lucas tried to push her away. "Don't." She cut him off. "I will not watch you die because you refuse to speak." And before he could protest, she reached for the clasp of her cloak and swung it around them both. It was like stepping into another world. Her cloak wasn't just fabric, it was lined with bioengineered thermal fiber, a Taviri survival technology that generated heat by responding to body temperature. The warmth spread instantly, seeping through his freezing suit, chasing the cold from his bones. But the true heat came from her. She pulled him close, chest to chest, their breathing mingling inside the narrow space of the cloak. Her skin radiated a steady, almost living warmth, a heat born not from machines but from biology, The Taviri had evolved in deep cold environments, generating internal heat for survival. Lucas's body wanted to melt into it. His mind resisted. "You don't have to." Her voice was firm. "I choose to." They sat like that for long minutes, the wind screaming around them, the ice stinging their backs. "You saved my life," he admitted finally. The words felt strange in his mouth. "You could have asked earlier," she said, but there was no judgment in it. Only understanding. He gave a short laugh that turned into a cough. "I don't ask. Not good at it. Then learn. Even iron cracks in enough cold." When the worst of the shaking subsided, she eased back slightly, though the cloak still covered them both. "We'll move again soon. But we travel together now. No more silence that kills." The long walk. With her cloak shared between them, progress became slower but far less deadly. They took turns breaking the wind, one walking slightly ahead while the other stayed shielded. In those hours, Lucas learned more about Saren. She had been part of a Taviri deep core research team studying geothermal vents on the far side of Calvesa 9. A seismic shift had destroyed her camp, and she'd been trying to reach a relay tower when the storm caught her. "Your people don't often travel with humans," he noted during a lull in the wind. She glanced at him, a faint smile curving her lips. "We don't often find humans who think they can outstare death without blinking." "That's not a compliment, is it?" "It is complicated." They found a temporary shelter under the lee of a massive ice pillar. Inside, she sealed the cloak's edges with small magnetic clasps, turning it into a tent-like cocoon. The dim bioluminescent threads woven into the lining bathed them in a soft blue glow. Lucas realized just how close they were. Her horns brushed the ceiling. Her eyes caught the light like molten silver. He was suddenly aware of every place their bodies touched through the thin material of his suit. "You're still cold," she murmured. "I'm better than I was." "That's not the same as warm." She shifted closer, pressing her forehead briefly against his. It was a Taviri gesture of reassurance. He'd read about it but never experienced it. For a moment, the blizzard outside felt very far away. Ending, rescue and reflection. Took 2 more days to reach the forward science outpost. The storm lessened only on the final day, revealing a sky the color of fractured crystal. The outpost's beacon was a faint pulse on the horizon. When they finally stumbled into the heated airlock, Lucas nearly collapsed from exhaustion. The med team rushed him to the infirmary, stripping off his frost-crusted suit. His core temperature was dangerously low but recoverable. Saren stayed by his bed until he woke hours later. "You made it," he said, his voice rough. "We made it," she corrected. "And you spoke before it was too late. That matters." He studied her for a moment. "You could have left me behind. Would have been easier." Her gaze softened. "Cold kills alone. Warmth is meant to be shared." Something in those words settled deep inside him. The habit of silence, of refusing to ask, would not vanish overnight. But now he knew. Pride couldn't keep him alive in every storm. Sometimes survival meant letting someone close enough to share their warmth. When the transport came to take them off-world, he sat beside her in the passenger hold. The heaters hummed, the air comfortable, yet he still felt the phantom echo of the heat they had shared on the ice fields. And for the first time in years, Lucas thought, maybe asking wasn't weakness after all.